In 2022, Jaden Ivey stood on the NBA draft stage as the number 5 overall pick, holding a cap and a multi-million-dollar future. 4 years later, he was standing on public sidewalks in Alabama, using a megaphone to reach passersby. On March 30, 2026, the Chicago Bulls waived Ivey, citing conduct detrimental to the team. The move followed an hour-long public broadcast where Ivey detailed his religious beliefs and his opposition to the league's cultural initiatives. The decision effectively ended his career, sparking a debate over whether an elite athlete can hold traditional religious views while remaining part of a modern corporate roster. This professional exit was the public conclusion of an internal shift that began years earlier, far away from the cameras. After entering the league, Ivey described a private life that was unraveling. He admitted to struggling with severe alcohol use, pornography addiction, and mental health crises that left him contemplating suicide. He had reached the peak of professional basketball, yet he found that achieving his lifelong dream provided no relief for his internal struggles. Investigating the personal stories behind these headlines requires media outlets that aren't tied to the league's marketing interests. Shasta Unfiltered provides the North State with honest news and entertainment. They focus on local events and values without corporate filters. You can support their work and stay informed by scanning the QR code on your screen now to subscribe. This period of personal crisis ended when Ivey underwent a religious conversion, adopting a worldview that he would eventually place above his NBA contract. Ivey describes his spiritual awakening as a total transformation, claiming he found healing and a sense of purpose through an encounter with Jesus Christ. He began telling his fans and teammates that his old identity was dead, and that his life was now defined entirely by his faith. His new convictions were absolute. The pursuit of stats and championships became secondary to his adherence to biblical scripture. Because he credited this faith with saving his life, Ivey was no longer willing to accommodate the professional expectations of the league if they conflicted with his theology. While Ivey focused on his sermons, the NBA continued its league-wide promotion of Pride Month and LGBTQ initiatives, a central part of its corporate identity. Ivey viewed this activism through the lens of his new faith, concluding that participating in these promotions would contradict the specific biblical teachings he now followed. In March 2026, he went live on Instagram, delivering a testimony that directly challenged the league's marketing. He called the promotions a celebration of unrighteousness and cited his beliefs on marriage and sin. The Chicago Bulls waived him almost immediately. There was no trade and no demotion. His presence on the team ended the same day as his broadcast. Ivey called the team's explanation a lie, insisting that his release was a direct result of his decision to preach the gospel. Modern professional sports demand a specific brand of corporate conformity. When forced to choose between the two, Ivey prioritized his religious doctrine over his career. The public reaction followed a familiar pattern. Teammates reportedly found his presence unsettling, and media coverage framed his scriptural references as bigoted. Rather than debating his theological stance, many critics began questioning his mental stability. On social media and in columns, terms like crazy and mental breakdown described his conversion. This frames traditional religious orthodoxy on sexuality as a psychological problem rather than a set of sincerely held beliefs. It suggests that holding historic Christian views is evidence of being mentally unfit for the workplace. Blacklisted from the league, Ivey has moved his message to the public square, preaching to students and locals in Auburn, Alabama. His situation highlights a tension in corporate athletics, which celebrates progressive social movements while excluding players who hold conflicting religious convictions. Despite the loss of his career and millions in potential earnings, Ivey says he has found a peace that the NBA never provided. He has traded the stadium for the street corner, acting on a single question: what good is it to gain the world but forfeit your soul?